Queen Rhaenyra had neither gold nor ships. When she had sent Lord Corlys to the dungeons, she had lost her fleet, and she had fled King's Landing in terror of her life, without so much as a coin. Despairing and fearful, her grace grew ever more grey and haggard. She could not sleep and would not eat. Nor would she suffer to be parted from Prince Aegon, her last living son. Day and night the boy remained by her side, like a small, pale shadow. Rhaenyra was forced to sell her crown to raise the coin to buy passage on a Braavosi merchantman, the Violand. Sir Harold Dark urged her to seek refuge with Lady Arryn in the Vale, while Sir Medric Manderley tried to persuade her to accompany him and his brother Sir Torren back to White Harbour, but her grace refused them both. She was adamant on returning to Dragonstone. There she would find dragon's eggs, she told her loyalists. She must have another dragon, or all was lost. Strong winds pushed the Violand closer to the shores of Driftmark than the Queen might have wished, and thrice she passed within hailing distance of the Sea Snake's warships, but Rhaenyra took care to keep well out of sight. Finally, the Braavosi put into the harbour below the Dragonmont on the eventide. The Queen had sent a raven to give notice of her coming, and found an escort waiting as she disembarked with her son Aegon, her ladies, and 3 Queensguard knights, all that was left of her party. It was raining when the Queen's party came ashore, and hardly a face was to be seen about the port. Even the dockside brothels appeared dark and deserted, but her grace took no notice. Sick in body and spirit, broken by betrayal, Rhaenyra Targaryen wanted only to return to her own seat, where she imagined that she and her son would be safe. Little did the Queen know that she was about to suffer her last and most grievous treachery. Her escort, 40 strong, was commanded by Sir Alfred Broom, one of the men left behind when Rhaenyra had launched her attack upon King's Landing. Broom was the most senior of the knights at Dragonstone, having joined the garrison during the reign of the old king. As such, he had expected to be named as Castellan when Rhaenyra went forth to seize the Iron Throne. But Sir Alfred's sullen disposition and sour manner inspired neither affection nor trust, so the Queen had passed him over in favour of the more affable Sir Robert Quince. When Rhaenyra asked why Sir Robert had not come himself to meet her, Sir Alfred replied that the Queen would be seeing "our fat friend" at the castle. And so she did. Though Quince's charred corpse was burned beyond all recognition when they came upon it, hanging from the battlements of the gatehouse beside Dragonstone's steward, master-at-arms, and captain of guards. Only by his size did they know him, for Sir Robert had been enormously fat. It is said that the blood drained from the Queen's cheeks when she beheld the bodies, but young Prince Aegon was the first to realize what they meant. "Mother, flee!" he shouted, but too late. Sir Alfred's men fell upon the Queen's protectors. An axe split Sir Harold Dark's head before his sword could clear its scabbard, and Sir Adrian Redford was stabbed through the back with a spear. Only Sir Lorith Lansdale moved quickly enough to strike a blow in the Queen's defence, cutting down the first 2 men who came at him before being slain himself. With him died the last of the Queensguard. When Prince Aegon snatched up Sir Harold's sword, Sir Alfred knocked the blade aside contemptuously. The boy, the Queen, and her ladies were marched at spear point through the gates of Dragonstone to the castle ward. There they found themselves face to face with a dead man and a dying dragon. Sunfire's scales still shone like beaten gold in the sunlight, but as he sprawled across the fused black Valyrian stone of the yard, it was plain to see that he was a broken thing, he who had been the most magnificent dragon ever to fly the skies of Westeros. The wing all but torn from his body by Meleys jutted from his body at an awkward angle, whilst fresh scars along his back still smoked and bled when he moved. Sunfire was coiled in a ball when the Queen and her party first beheld him. As he stirred and raised his head, huge wounds were visible along his neck, where another dragon had torn chunks from his flesh. On his belly were places where scabs had replaced scales, and where his right eye should have been was only an empty hole crusted with black blood. Rhaenyra laughed when she beheld the ruin of Sunfire the Golden. "Whose work is this?" she said. "We must thank him." "Sister!" the king called down from a balcony. Unable to walk or even stand, he had been carried there in a chair. The hip shattered at Rook's Rest had left Aegon bent and twisted. His once handsome features had grown puffy from milk of the poppy, and burn scars covered half his body. Yet Rhaenyra knew him at once and said, "Dear brother, I had hoped that you were dead." "After you," Aegon answered. "You were the elder." "Well, I'm pleased to know that you remember that," Rhaenyra answered. "It would seem we are your prisoners, but do not think that you will hold us long. My leal lords will find me." "If they search the seven hells, mayhaps," the king made answer, as his men tore Rhaenyra from her son's arms. Some accounts say it was Sir Alfred Broom who had hold of her arm. Others name the two Toms, Tanglebeard the father and Tangletongue the son. Sir Marston Waters stood witness as well, clad in a white cloak, for King Aegon had named him to his king's guard for his valour. Yet neither Waters nor any of the other knights and lords present in the yard spoke a word of protest as King Aegon II delivered his half-sister to his dragon. Sunfire, it is said, did not seem at first to take any interest in the offering, until Broom pricked the queen's breast with his dagger. The smell of blood roused the dragon, who sniffed at her grace, then bathed her in a blast of flame, so suddenly that Sir Alfred's cloak caught fire as he leapt away. Rhaenyra Targaryen had time to raise her head toward the sky and shriek out one last curse upon her half-brother before Sunfire's jaws closed round her, tearing off her arm and shoulder. The golden dragon devoured the queen in 6 bites, leaving only her left leg below the shin for the stranger. The queen's son watched in horror, unable to move. Rhaenyra Targaryen, the realm's delight and half-year queen, passed from this vale of tears upon the 22nd day of 10th moon of the 130th year after Aegon's conquest. She was 33 years of age. Sir Alfred Broom argued for killing Prince Aegon as well, but King Aegon forbade it. Only 10, the boy might yet have value as a hostage, he declared. Though his half-sister was dead, she still had supporters in the field who must needs be dealt with before his grace could hope to sit the Iron Throne again. Sir Prince Aegon was manacled at neck, wrist and ankle and led down to the dungeons under Dragonstone. The late Queen's ladies-in-waiting, being of noble birth, were given cells in Sea Dragon Tower, there to await ransom. "The time for hiding is done," King Aegon II declared. "Let the ravens fly that the realm may know the pretender is dead, and their true king is coming home to reclaim his father's throne." Yet even true kings may find some things more easily proclaimed than accomplished. In the days following his half-sister's death, the king still clung to the hope that Sunfire might recover enough strength to fly again. Instead, the dragon only seemed to weaken further, and soon the wounds in his neck began to stink. Even the smoke he exhaled had a foul smell to it, and toward the end he would no longer eat. On the 9th day of the 12th moon of 130 AC, the magnificent golden dragon that had been King Aegon's glory died in the yard of Dragonstone where he had fallen. His grace wept. When his grief had passed, King Aegon II summoned his loyalists and made plan for his return to King's Landing, to reclaim the Iron Throne and be reunited once again with his lady mother, the Queen Dowager who had at last emerged triumphant over her great rival, if only by outliving her. "Rhaenyra was never a queen," the king declared, insisting that henceforth in all chronicles and court records his half-sister be referred to only as princess, the title of queen being reserved only for his mother Alicent and his late wife and sister Helena, the true queens. And so it was decreed. Yet Aegon's triumph would prove to be as short-lived as it was bittersweet. Rhaenyra was dead, but her cause had not died with her. And new black armies were on the march even as the king returned to the Red Keep. Aegon II would sit the Iron Throne again, but he would never recover from his wounds, would know neither joy nor peace. His restoration would endure for only half a year. The account of how the second Aegon fell and was succeeded by the third is a tale for another time, however. The war for the throne would go on, but the rivalry that began at a court ball when a princess dressed in black and a queen in green has come to its red end. And with that concludes this portion of our history.